Welcome to Square State. I'm your host, Michelle Jackson. If Texas and California did a road trip, Thelma and Louise, they'd end up in Colorado. I am super thrilled to speak with the following guest who showed me around one of my favorite, if not, no, it's my favorite mountain town in Colorado. And it's funny because it'd been a while since I'd visited, and I thought that I imagined loving it as much as I did. And actually, it wasn't imagination. This place is just truly magical. It's one of those diamonds in the rough. And my guest really helps to connect visitors and locals to the town. And so, Joshua, if you could introduce who you are and what you do, that would be wonderful.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. I appreciate it. My name is Josh Futterman. I am the founder of Travel Crested Butte. We are a multimedia company that basically just shares everything that makes this area a paradise for us, mountain paradise. Got our website, we've got social media properties, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And we're just all about getting people here, make sure they have a good time and showing them all that we have to offer.
You want me to call you Joshua or Josh?
Josh is cool.
So when I was in Crested Butte, was I calling you the wrong name the whole time and you never corrected me? I don't know how I feel about this.
I go either way.
No, but Josh is so much easier. I feel like Joshua is like your mom is talking to you.
It sounds more formal, I suppose. Yes.
Yes. Anyway, listeners, stop laughing. Okay, so if you could talk about how you ended up in Crested Butte and why on earth did you create this business? I think it's a really interesting backstory, and I think it's good to share.
Sure, yeah. So probably like a lot of other listeners that you have, I was in Denver working a kind of a 9-to-5 at a .com startup back in the early 2010s. And I actually just visited Crested Butte on a whim, one 4th of July weekend back then, and happened to find it was very fortuitous that we actually found an opening for one of the Airbnbs, Purple Mountain Airbnb, for that weekend. And they had a cancellation, and so we were coming up from a camping trip and decided to just check it out for one night, and stayed at the Airbnb and just fell in love with the place. It just really, there's something really unique and special about CB, about Crested Butte, and just even driving up from Gunnison, driving up the valley. I just had a unique feel to it, just the way that the mountains kind of present themselves as you get closer to them. And it just feels right. It just feels good. And just staying there overnight and checking into one of the restaurants and having a great meal. And it just, again, everything felt really good for some reason. And I always thought to myself, I'll retire here. This is the perfect spot. Definitely have explored Colorado a bit myself and climbed a bunch of 14ers. But this was something different. It felt unique and it felt really good. And so, I just wanted to come back and check it out as often as possible, just to see what else it had to offer and spend more than just a night there. And so did end up coming back up through the winter and seeing the fall here, for a few days at a time. And every time I came to Crested Butte, I always felt like I just wanted to stay longer. And it always sucked coming, trying to go back to the 9-to-5 grind in Denver afterward. And always wanted to extend the vacation, extend the stay. Usually ended up staying, for a long weekend and stretching it out as much as possible, savoring every moment. And so came to 2013, was a unique opportunity. I wasn't tied to my job anymore. I wasn't tied to my lease in Denver. Actually just came out of a relationship as well. And so it was just a unique opportunity. I had no strings attached to Denver anymore. And so I thought, why not take the plunge and give it a whirl? Let's go early retirement, quote unquote. See if I can make it work. And so I took the plunge in 2013. So it's been already 8 years, which is crazy to me, but found a place to rent and just kind of, made the move.
I was really intrigued when I was down there, when you described kind of recognizing or noticing a gap in content about Crested Butte and just a gap in service as well, I guess you would say. How did you notice that and how did you optimize that gap in the market? I find that Colorado mountain towns are really interesting in that in Colorado in general, the content coming out of the state is not necessarily, it doesn't pitch the cities in the way that you think it would. You don't get a lot of 72 hours in Breckenridge posts for all of the different towns throughout the state. And there definitely are certain cities that are very well served in terms of tourism and things like that. And I'm surprised that you noticed that there was a gap for Crested Butte because it's such a magical city, a magical town. What was it that you were noticing and why did you think, hey, I'm the right person to do this, even though I'm new to the city?
I came from the .com startup was a content play. I was certainly familiar with the online space and what we were trying to do with that business. And that definitely, had me in the right mindset of what's possible, at least, with content, with online content. This is back again in the early 2010s. So it was pretty nascent and there was a lot of opportunity and a lot of possibility. And so coming and visiting to Crested Butte, I definitely noticed that it lacked the online presence. I mean, the town itself was a hidden gem back then, and it was off the radar. Like not many people knew about it at all. And this was probably just the start of when Denver started to reinvent itself and started to boom a little bit, and more people were coming to Colorado. CB definitely was off the radar. And the really interesting component I thought was, when I would visit it and spend more time here, it did have that unique flavor. So it was local businesses, all independently owned shops. There aren't any corporations here other than the ski resort. There's one franchise in town, Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, right? And so, but all the other restaurants, all the other shops, lodging, it was all independent. And it was really cool that you could actually meet the owners. Some of them would be working at the front and they would be extremely friendly and they would talk to you and tell you, all the insider tips and this trail and go here, go there and check this out. It was very unique, because you wouldn't necessarily get that going to a Vail or going to a more, commercialized mountain town. At least what I had experienced thus far. And so definitely noticed that it was, that was certainly part of the appeal, but it also was kind of preventing other people from just learning about it, from getting exposed to it. I saw the opportunity to at least get this information out there, get a little bit more organized. Okay, what are all the restaurants? Really something straightforward, like give me a list of the restaurants, please, and this was, I think, early days of like Open Table and like, so there, Yelp and all that stuff. So again, the resources didn't really exist that much back then. I took it upon myself to, post it, put it out there, create a website and try to aggregate this information in a user-friendly fashion and, just to be a valuable resource. And I think that's the reason why we succeeded, was just because A, there was an opportunity, like you said, that nothing existed back then, and B, we just did it with the users and the visitors in mind. It's like, okay, what do you want to see? What do you want to know about? What do you want to learn? Just trying to put that information out there in an attractive manner, and quite frankly, just to do Crested Butte justice, because it is such a beautiful, special place, and we try to do justice with the photos and the videos, and it's really hard. It does lend itself to beautiful pictures and beautiful video, and that's definitely been the appeal for a lot of people to come here and to check it out. When you see it for yourself, and I think you can speak to this as well, Michelle, it blows you away sometimes. You're just like, wow, this is unreal.
It is one of the most beautiful places I've visited. I've gone to a lot of beautiful places, but I think part of the appeal for me is I was so sad when I left, I'm gonna be honest, because Crested Butte reminds me of Colorado before it became this new iteration of Colorado, before people discovered Colorado. It is so low key and unpretentious and just chill. And we're talking in May, but we're still in the COVID times. And so I sat outside at the coffee shop, the one that's super busy. It's so busy with the license plates on the wall.
Camp 4 coffee, right?
Yes, very good coffee too. So I'm having my good cup of coffee and I'm listening to people who live in town talk to one another. And as I explored the town, that happened over and over and over again. People knew each other, were connected, knew each other's stories. And I really, that was the thing that really resonated with me. I was just like, wow, these people know each other. And in a time when we feel so disconnected, it was just so beautiful to see how connected the residents are to one another in some of the most basic ways. But a lot of that may not necessarily happen in a bigger city, to be honest.
Definitely, yeah. It has a slower pace to it. It certainly, when I first moved here, that was also kind of what got me to stay. It was the fact that you could get to know people. It was very chill, and that's certainly, almost needed in this day and age, just to take a breath and to slow down. And it has that. It kind of oozes that, when you check it out for yourself. Absolutely.
So, what are the things that you do specifically in your business? What is it that you do for people who are coming to visit, and why should we reach out to you and your amazing team?
Sure. So we're, all about doing this place justice, making sure that the information is out there for people trying to find more about it. So exposing new people to Crested Butte just by showing them what we have to offer, the tons of different activities you could do here in all the seasons, the different amenities that people can utilize, the lodging, restaurants, the dining. What I do as the business owner is, of course, we're trying to advertise all of the local businesses here. So we're trying to break through the noise in all the different platforms. So you've got, Facebook, which was much bigger when I just started, but now you, of course, Instagram, and we've been delving into TikTok, but Instagram Reels. And so there's so much content out there that we try to produce high quality content, stuff that's going to catch your attention, and most importantly, it's you're going to engage with it. So you're going to see, and of course, probably over the last 5 to 7 years, Instagram kind of blew up places just like this, where people were seeing these gorgeous photos from all around the world, and going to the places because they finally got to see where they were, and what you could do there, and how to get there. And so exposure has led to certainly an increase in tourism over the past few years. And we're just trying to help out the local businesses here because they're small business owners for the most part. They don't have the bandwidth to necessarily create an Instagram Reels video or create some content that they can push out there and get in front of people. And so just raising that awareness for our clients and our advertisers, and just hopefully getting people to visit their shop, their restaurant, or stay in their lodging.
So you don't facilitate any helping people to reserve a place, or you're just providing the content so people can make decisions.
Right. We're more of the gateway. So
Okay.
we're introducing you to what's out here, what's available, and hopefully getting you to the right place. We don't act like as a travel agent. So we don't work on commission like that or anything, but it's more about, let's showcase what are the cool features, what are the cool restaurants, what are some of the unique things that you can do here. And at the same time, patronize and help support the local businesses because they are independent and it's not a giant corporation, which is nice.
How is visiting Crested Butte different than, say, visiting a town like Breckenridge? And what should someone consider? I think that might be the other question. If you have a week and a half to spend in Colorado and you're like, Denver, Breckenridge, Breckenridge, Crested Butte, you're trying to figure it out. Why would you do one versus the other? Or what's the compelling reason why you would go to Crested Butte versus Breckenridge?
I think you hit upon it earlier. It has a more unique flavor. It's got, like you said, like Colorado used to be before it was a bit more commercialized the way it is now. When you come to Crested Butte, and I would recommend spending probably that at least a week here if you can, but just because it is a bit more remote, it's a bit more off the beaten path. It's a 4-hour drive in the summertime from Denver. And that's like a good thing. That's definitely something that is the appeal of it, is it's not just a quick trip where everybody in Denver is going there over the weekend. It's a little bit more removed and you're getting into the wilderness area. We're surrounded on all sides by national forests, by wilderness areas. Literally, we're at the end of a road, and there's a dirt road that opens up Kebler Pass in the summertime. It's basically in the winter, it's one way in, one way out, and it's got that unique flavor because of that. So you've got beautiful, pristine wilderness surrounding you with the high alpine lakes and the high mountains, and we're the wildflower capital of Colorado. In the summertime, we get an amazing wildflower bloom of tremendous varieties. It is very surreal, like you're on another planet. You're hiking through these trails, and it's just wildflowers all around you. So very cool with the summertime. In the fall, you've got this amazing foliage put on display with tons of aspen groves all around you. And as I mentioned, Kevlar Pass actually is the largest aspen grove in Colorado and the second largest, I believe, on the planet. So yeah, it's just behind this remote place in Utah. So feel like you're taken to some fantasy land, and it blows you away, it blows the mind with the natural beauty, the natural surroundings. And then on top of that, you've got that unique flavor of the businesses here. They're independently owned. There's a tremendous variety for such a small town. There's only about 2,000 full-time residents in the town of CB itself, and maybe about 4,500 in the surrounding area. And so it's a relatively small community, but you've got a tremendous variety of restaurants, all different flavors. There's Asian cuisine, there's Indian and Sherpa cuisine, there's Mediterranean. So you got all across the board, which is, again, surprising for a town this size.
And pasties.
Pasties. Don't forget the pasties. You're right. So we have to deviate and just go into what a pasty is. Because
it does sound awkward, right?
Yeah. It's not a common term, or at least in the way you're thinking it is.
Share what that is.
Yeah, so there's a restaurant called Tin Cup Pasty, and pasties are they don't serve the nipple coverings, sorry to say. These are pastries of like a Cornish, so it's like a British UK heritage, where they would have these like dough-filled pastries with like meat and potatoes, very like savory pastries, and they're called pasties. They would feed them to coal miners back in the day. And so Matthew Price is actually the owner of that restaurant, and he brought the concept here, moved his family here just a couple of years ago, and they're awesome. They're delicious, and they serve ice cream and all waffles and all other sorts of stuff too. But yes, if you're in town, check out the pasties. It's a good hearty meal for sure.
That cracks me up, the cultural difference in one word. But we're not gonna go deep into that. But that's freaking hilarious. I'm curious about the tensions that might still be occurring because of COVID. And if I'm someone from out of state listening to this, what are some things that I should be aware of so that I can be respectful of the community and just know what the community is doing as we make our way out of this hell that we call a global pandemic?
Sure, yeah. So COVID hit CB really early on. We were one of the first places to get spike in cases in the country. Mainly just because of the visitors that come here are from all over the world sometimes, and the airport. And it was during the end of the ski season in 2020. And so we were one of the first places that spiked up. And it was kind of, again, back then it was even scarier because nobody knew what was going on. And so we shut down really hard immediately after that, unprecedentedly. And of course, a lot of other cities and places followed suit. But as a result, the county's done a tremendous job. It's been really difficult, of course, as a lot of places have experienced, but we've been stricter than most the past year with regard to the precautions taken for COVID. So, with mask wearing and with social distancing and dining and things like that. And we've managed to keep the rates relatively low in the Valley. And it's been, we've been really, really lucky. We only had about a half a dozen deaths, which of course are horrible, but the fact that it was relatively low even for the population, and we just weren't affected as adversely as a lot of other places. Last summer was extremely busy for most of town as well, so kind of bucked the trend in that way as well. Coming here, visiting here, so the county's got a countywide initiative for vaccinations right now, and we're about to hit 10,000, which puts us in
Wow.
the green level, which is great, which means the restrictions for the most part are going to be lifted almost completely. And that's starting, if all goes to plan, starting July 1st. Great news. I'm actually going to get my first shot today, right after this.
Fantastic.
Coincidentally, yeah. So the rollout has been great here. And, you know, I think most people have done a great job of, respecting the mask ordinances and just helping to maintain everybody's health and safety. So if you come here, even before July 1st, there still is dining, sit down dining in the establishments with the social distancing, so which is great. And then again, that'll be lifted. The restrictions will be lifted on July 1st if all goes well. And then we have events that are going to be kicking off again this summer, outdoor events, which are great. And I think one of the major appeals, not to go off on a tangent again, but why we did so well last summer in terms of visitation was the fact that you could spread out so easily here. We have hundreds of miles of backcountry trails where you don't really see people if you don't want to. And it's a great way to still get outside, still get, exercise, get some sun, and be able to relax and not worry as much about, being crowded in a city or something like that.
It's interesting too, at the time that we're recording this, literally today, the CDC has given some guidance on mask wearing as well. So I think that while we would want you to get vaccinated, for the love of God, it's likely you're going to be around, in terms of Coloradans, a very large number of people who have protected themselves from you. If you decide not to. So there's also that. I did want to talk briefly about, if I'm a person of color going to visit Crested Butte, what are some things that you would want for me to know? I am a person of color. I've been there again more than once, but there was a huge gap between visits, partly because it's far. And I want to give my feedback after you say what you say, but what would you share for someone who's may have a concern or is hesitant about going kind of off the beaten path?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michelle. I think I and we and the town and the businesses are extremely welcoming of people of color, and we want more diversity in Crested Butte. Crested Butte is traditionally a very white town, as are a lot of mountain towns in Colorado, for sure. It's something that, more recently, especially, that the governments and the town councils have been involved with trying to extend, more outreach and try to make it even more welcoming, and, looking for ways to address any places that maybe there's a shortfall, and maybe that, it wouldn't be welcoming or may come across the wrong way. So, and those are, internal things with maybe the police or things of that nature. And there was a whole, again, we could go off on a long tangent, Black Lives Matter movement last summer, but certainly it's been a topic of interest. And for us, and I can speak for at least myself and I'm in my business, we absolutely want to be as welcoming as possible and get more diversity here. Because I think for me, I grew up in New York. I was born and raised there, and then I moved to Boulder and Denver, and that was a culture shock to me coming from New York. And then you get another one when you come out here. There's something to be said for having a little bit more diversity and having differences of opinion and differences of culture and people, differences of color. And there's something that it brings to towns. And it's great to see more people of color and more diversity has been here in recent months and recent years. I would hope your audience would definitely make the move and at least check it out at the very least.
I will say that, again, the first time I visited, I felt very welcomed. And then in this last visit, I did go with a group of POC. It was a beautiful trip. It really was. It's been a hard year. We laughed our asses off when we went for pizza. Josh was there, as was his amazing team. I had a fantastic time. One of the things that I appreciated was the fact that it was visible to me that I was welcomed in the town, because there were definitely Black Lives Matter signs, and I had some, you don't go out of your way necessarily have conversations about race and that kind of thing when you're on a vacation, but I had some really wonderful conversations with folks in town and different individuals who own businesses in town. And I can just say that overall, it was just a really wonderful experience for me. And I felt very safe, and just especially because I do outdoorsy things, and in a town like Crested Butte, you're going to be doing a lot of stuff outside. And so I didn't have someone look at me strangely because I was out there.
Okay.
And that's not something that I necessarily worry about, but I do have a lot of friends who are concerned about that, whether they are Black, Asian, whatever. Sometimes I've had friends say, it really bothered me that we were just skiing or whatever, and people looked at us strangely because we were on the mountain, like we weren't supposed to be there. Now, obviously, you can't control how people react. There's a lot of people visiting this town from outside of the state and beyond and whatever. So who knows what people are going to do. But overall, I would say it was an incredibly welcoming town to visit. I personally highly recommend it. I love Crested Butte. Definitely looking forward to going again this summer for some hiking and just to relax and just soak in the vibe. For someone looking to visit this summer or fall, what would you say? Because we're getting close to the season. What are some tips that you'd like to share before we wrap things up?
And just wanted to mention that it's a really great to hear that your experience was positive, Michelle. So
that was fantastic.
I'm
You would have known if it wasn't. I would have said it nicely, like, well, like we need to talk. But no, it was wonderful.
The upcoming months, summertime is been our busiest season. So certainly, July, even, late June, early August, it's going to be packed. It's going to be extremely busy. I would recommend coming outside of those times, actually. I would say early June is fantastic. The wildflowers will be blooming all around town, and, late August and early September, it's a little bit of a lull in terms of the traffic. So, if you're okay with expecting it to be nonstop packed, then you're okay with coming peak summer. But again, I think outside of peak is a little bit more enjoyable, just because the waiting times are going to be a little bit less, and you can, regardless of any time, you can get out and you can not see anyone on a backcountry trail. But there's so much to offer. I would say one point I would love to make is we're really focused on sustainability these days. And the fact that we do get so busy in the summer does create a tremendous impact, especially in the backcountry. If people are camping and they're hiking out there, and, pooping in the woods is a big issue. So, there's a lot of initiatives that are going on, and we, Travel Crested Butte, along with a lot of other entities in town, are really focused on trying to ensure that we retain the beauty and the pristine wilderness of Crested Butte. And so, we've got a lot of ways to help educate visitors with regard to, for example, pooping in the woods, by supporting putting out porta potties back there. And the visitor center gives away these poop kits, basically, so you can dig a hole and dispose of it properly or pack it out.
I don't think people understand that. So I've done a lot of camping and stuff, and it's an issue. There's so many issues with how people hike and camp when they're not familiar with it. And I mean, you might be listening and be like, why are you guys talking about poo? It's a thing, people. Okay. If you can't handle the truth, you can't handle
everybody
the hike.
Poops.
Everybody poops, but if they can't handle this truth, they cannot hike.
True,
it just is what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So do your research,
calls,
people.
Absolutely. When nature calls, you probably don't have a choice. So you want to be prepared is what it comes down to. So yeah, if you've never experienced, true backcountry, you can get remote back here. There's no cell service. There's no facilities. You're kind of on your own, pretty easily to get back there. And it's always good to be prepared and keep people safe, of course. And again, keep the backcountry from getting too trashed, which is important to us.
What's your favorite thing? I actually, as much as I love hiking and stuff, I love the bike culture in town, which I don't know, I just kind of missed. I'm obsessed with it. Anyway, what's your favorite thing to do? And then if you could share how we can follow what you're up to. Photos are amazing. Oh my God. Just share the details.
I guess favorite things to do. I guess pretty ordinary, can be boring, I suppose. I mean, in the summertime, it's hiking and mountaineering, climbing up some of the peaks around here and just hitting some of the trails. I'm an introvert, whether you believe it or not. I definitely love to get out where there's nobody else and find these beautiful lakes. And again, you feel like you're on another planet. I keep saying that, but it's true. And you get to these beautiful places where you can, you could be with whether it's my wife or friends you're with, but you get to enjoy that kind of solitude or peaceful quietness. It's amazing. It really is amazing, especially coming from the city where there's noise all the time. And then in the winter it's skiing of all kinds, downhill or cross country, or it's just fun to go fast on snow. So
I don't want to bring up that sledding. Okay, yes, that was painful, but it was fun.
Yes, as much fun as you can have, for sure. Sorry, I forgot what was the second part of the question.
How can we follow you?
Oh, of course, the important stuff. So we are, as I mentioned, very active on social. On Instagram, it's at Travel Crested Butte. We've got Travel Crested Butte profile on Facebook as well. Beautiful photos and videos and fun stuff. And we've got a TikTok as well for Travel Crested Butte. We're trying to hop on some of the trends and just having fun with it. So it's not always just serious, beautiful landscapes, but, having fun with some entertainment, some comedic value, I suppose. And then the website is, the short version is travelcb.com. And you can find pretty much anything that you would need to come visit here and enjoy yourself.
Josh, thank you so much for being a guest on my show. Thank you so much for the hospitality that you showed to me and the outdoor Afro group that I visited with. I'm speaking for myself, but in my observations, everyone just had a beautiful, beautiful time. And I do hope that whomever listens to this show will carry their poop with them and respect the outdoors.
Yes, if there's one thing to take away, it's your poop. So there you go.
So with that being said, that's the end of the interview.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate you taking the time. And
go get your shot.
Yes, let me go get my shot. And I hope to see you out here soon. So
take care.
Okay, take care.